Welcome everyone, this is NKBA and you're here for the Digital Advertising in Your Sales Funnel with Rachel Derman, who's the Director of Operations for DoorBoost. And Rachel, if you're there, we're ready to get started.
Yep, I'm here. Can you hear me okay?
I can, thank you.
All right, great. Hi everyone and welcome. My name is Rachel Derman, as Debbie said, and I serve as Director of Operations at DoorBoost Inc. I'm very excited to be here today hosting today's webinar and want to thank Debbie and NKBA for having me. I also know we have a number of folks here today from the Midwest, so just want to say that we all hope you're staying warm. Chicago's my hometown, so I've been hearing about the cold from friends and family all morning. So hope you guys are doing all right. Yes, so our topic today is digital advertising and your sales funnel. It's a topic that I know can be very overwhelming, but is also so important for your business. So with that, I'd like everyone listening in today to take a second right now and just give yourselves a collective pat on the back for taking time out of your day to gain more insight into the digital advertising world. Okay, hopefully you all did that. And just another note, as Debbie mentioned, we will have time for questions twice throughout the presentation, once sort of in the middle and then towards the end. So definitely please don't hesitate to ask. And if we aren't able to get to it, I'm more than happy to be in touch after today's session. So just to give you a bit of background about DoorBoost, DoorBoost is a digital advertising solution which connects brands in the home and design industry with their local retailers and professional partners. Our solution enables brands and their partners to run fully aligned and highly professional campaigns at scale in order to generate new leads and drive in-store traffic. So when it comes to marketing online, retailers and industry professionals often find themselves competing against massive brands, firms, and agencies in what we like to call a David and Goliath-like scenario, in which they're marketing to the same audiences and on the same platforms, but without the same budget. So the DoorBoost Partner Program was actually built to help level the playing field for these small to medium-sized businesses. Today, we currently have a number of active partnership programs with brands in the industry, but we are always open to more. So if you have a brand you sell or one you work with regularly, we'd love to hear more from you about what kind of support they give to you in terms of digital advertising, or if you'd like, provide you with just a bit more information for you to refer them to us. So let's get started with digital advertising and your sales funnel. First, just a quick overview of what we'll review today. We'll begin with discussing the unique benefits of digital advertising to give you a good understanding of the ways in which it differs from other marketing channels and media. Just as a note, we will absolutely touch on how digital advertising actually works throughout the presentation. However, we won't get into too much depth with each platform or things like how to create and monitor campaigns, since that would be a whole webinar in itself. And actually, I think there was one previously in that arena. This is really meant to be more of a conceptual and strategic session rather than a how-to. So after benefits, we'll talk about how you can begin thinking about online marketing strategy for your specific business. And then from there, we'll move on to what I like to think of as our part two, which is building an understanding of your results from online advertising in terms of who leads are that your campaign generates, what to do with them, and of course, how much they'll cost you. I do want to mention also that while there's many types of sales goals related to digital advertising, today we're really only going to focus on how to use online advertising for lead generation in order to build your sales funnel. So I did want to start off with providing a bit of context for where consumers and industry professionals are at today in terms of shopping for products and services, as well as digital marketing. To begin, 80% of consumers do extensive internet research before visiting a showroom. If you leave today's webinar with only one takeaway, I hope it's more, but if you leave with only one, I hope it's this. Consumers are online a lot, and they are shopping online a lot. The digital age has really ushered in a more educated consumer, and with information so readily available at our fingertips, shoppers are now empowered to easily compare options online. This means that you need to reach them where they're shopping rather than waiting for them to walk through your office or your storefront. It also raises a number of important questions for marketers and business owners such as yourselves. What does the online research process look like for these consumers? What factors are they considering while thinking about the decision? How do they narrow down and ultimately choose where to go for products or services? The average buyer begins thinking about remodeling about 5 years before. Once they decide to move forward, it can take 5 months or less to complete their purchase. What this tells us is that today, decisions related to building, remodeling, renovating, and redecorating are not small. They require a significant amount of time, money, and thought. So what's important for you here as a business is relating this type of decision making to your sales funnel, which is what we'll get into more later in the presentation. So I also wanted to add a few examples of where we see a shift toward online in the industry overall. Where do we see this? As many of you know, there's been a major growth trend in smart home technology for appliance brands and even more. We also see it in 3D planning for both builders and designers, and as mentioned before, an ongoing shift in how consumers shop and gather information toward online, also including things like more online reviews and a growth in our review economy. Lastly, we also see a need for business representation online to legitimize products or services. You guys see this every day. My guess is you'd be unlikely to go to dinner at a restaurant that isn't searchable online, and your business is no different. Now let's look at industry trends in digital marketing. The survey here showed that 66% of dealers or designers have no formal marketing plan in place, and instead they just sort of make decisions as they go along. When asked what's keeping them from doing more digital marketing, 31% cited a lack of knowledge and skills. So with that, it's now time to give yourselves a second pat on the back because you're all here today to be in the know. Hope you're doing that. So finally, why is digital advertising so beneficial for your business? First and foremost, online advertising creates a virtual line out your door and a waiting room full of qualified customers. So before moving on, there's one key word on this slide I'd like to highlight, which is the word qualified. How is it that leads generated online can be more qualified if you've never even spoken to them? Unlike other marketing channels you might use, such as print or radio or TV ads, where an entire group of readers or viewers receive the ad, usually all at once, digital marketing allows for a very specific targeting based on many different criteria that's available. Just some examples of this criteria, it includes things like location, age, income, gender, marital status, brand affinities, and even more specific things like kitchen remodeling or contemporary design. So for those of you seeking a specific demographic for your business, which I believe is probably most, using this criteria can help you reach potential clients without wasting time or money marketing to those who are less likely to be a good fit. So without just casting that super wide net with no true aim. I do want to emphasize one point before we move forward, which is that online advertising is not meant to replace your offline sales activities. That said, it has become a critical component to any business's sales strategy these days. And we see that with the trends we just went over. So some key benefits that come with digital advertising, and these are more unique benefits, so think sort of in relation to other media or advertising channels you might use. So first, an efficient reach. Whether booking a consultation online or wanting more information about a product, digital ads can guide shoppers to where they find these things, which is something that the educated consumers we spoke about earlier expects to receive. Next, and perhaps one of the biggest differences between online and other media, is the immediate performance feedback you get for your ads. So with real-time measurement of how consumers are responding, you can make changes to optimize your ads more quickly than other media. And this allows you to make the most of your budget pretty much at all times and get the best ROI, return on investment, possible. Along with the timely reporting also comes in-depth reporting and insights. So anything from measuring clicks and views to comparing how different ads perform among different demographics. Lastly, and this one goes back to our keyword from earlier, qualified. Due to the specific targeting criteria digital advertising offers, new leads that come in are even more qualified, and therefore shortening your sales cycle from first contact to close. So essentially, they're leads that aren't coming in cold. They're a bit warmed up. They've seen your brand, seen your business. All right. So now that you're hopefully excited about how great digital advertising can be for your business, I want to dive into how you can actually begin to get started. As with any major project or investment of time or money, I'm sure all of you know, the first step is to get clear on your goals and define a strategy, how you're going to do it. To get started, you want to get clear in these 3 areas: goals, budget, and time. So first, your goals. What do we mean by goals? By goals, we mean what do you want to get out of the campaign for your business? This will help you manage and build your strategy, but also make it measurable over time, and we'll touch on this a bit more. Next, we have budget. Simply put, how much money are you willing to allocate to your strategy? Marketing budget for digital advertising is spent over the course of a campaign, typically over the course of a campaign duration, rather than on, like, say, something like print, where you purchase a specific number of ads in a specific size. Digital advertising budget can also be measured and changed on the spot. So budget management is an important aspect of your campaign. So just as a side note, this is an important piece to think about, whether it's you doing the advertising or somebody else for you. And third is time. The amount of time you have for marketing will impact budget. Are you able to manage this in-house, or do you need to hire outside help, as we just said? Your business calendar, so I sort of threw this in with time. Your business calendar will also be important for dictating your strategy goals. Digital advertising campaigns typically run for a set duration. You have a start date and an end date. So you want to plan ahead in terms of whether you will run one campaign or a series of campaigns throughout the year that each have different goals or features. So some examples of the types of questions to ask yourself when beginning to define your strategy, goals, budget, and time may be: how much are you willing to pay for a lead? Do you have any special events coming up? What role does an online presence play in your business? So how important is it for you to be there? What is your average margin on a sale or a project? Will seasonality impact the goals for your campaign? And as mentioned before, do you need to outsource your online advertising? Again, regardless of if you're taking on marketing for your business on your own or hiring outside help, you'll need to define all 3 components to provide a base framework for your campaigns. So once your team hashes out a clear goal for your campaign, or a few goals, you're able to determine the campaign objective. The objective defines what tangible messaging your ads will have in order to achieve your desired results. So in other words, what type of campaign you'd like to run. I think this will be a bit more clear in our next slide. So these are a few examples of campaign objectives available specifically on Facebook advertising, but other platforms as well. So just as an example, if your campaign goal is to increase attendance to an open house you're having, your campaign objective will be event signups. Campaign objective is important because as said before, it dictates the type of campaign you'll run, which in turn defines your campaign metrics and makes success measurable. So what's important there is making sure that you're really seeing and understanding how well your campaign is working for you. For example, if you run a campaign for post engagement, some key metrics will be things like clicks, views, shares, and more. If you run an event sign-up campaign, as mentioned before, a key metric will be number of signups. So you want to really hone in on where you're seeing results and how you're measuring them. So while your strategy fundamentally informs the campaign objective you choose, there are some other factors to consider, such as who your target demographic is, so where they're shopping, as we said before, how are they shopping, and the nature of your business. This goes back to our earlier slide where we discussed the importance of who your target consumer base is and how they think. Your strategy will also inform what platform you choose to advertise on. Again, as diving into each platform would be a webinar of its own, so we won't go into too much detail. That said, some of the main platforms used for digital advertising are LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, House, and Google Ad or AdWords. There are many more though, and it really will all come down to what you're hoping to get out of it and the nature of your business. There's absolutely no one best platform for everyone, and a lot of where you choose to advertise will depend on your goals. For example, if you're a showroom manager, you may want to use the professional nature of LinkedIn to reach out to designers, and Facebook or Instagram to reach out to consumers. Again, can't say it enough. That's why it's important to get clear on goals first. So I just wanted to add a quick visual of a typical journey a new lead may take. So as you can see in step one, they view the ad on Facebook. I'm sure many of you do this all the time. You see in your newsfeed, you scroll and you do see ads. So they view an ad on Facebook, which catches their attention. The ad provides what we call a call to action, which prompts a next action to engage with the ad. So some examples of this are sign up, learn more, download a free catalog, and others. In step two, they click on the call to action, and finally, in step three, submit their information accordingly. And with that, you have a brand new lead in your business's virtual waiting room ready for you to follow up with. This is going to take us into what I call part two of our session, where we dive into who these leads are and what the heck to do with them. So first, I know we went over kind of a lot already, and so I wanted to pause now and see if anyone has any questions, if there are any. So Debbie can help out with that.
Yes, Rachel. Jim was asking, I think it was a couple slides back. He was wondering where the statistic came from that you was being cited. I'm not sure which slide that was. And then he has a second question. So if you want to do that one first, and then I'll give you the second question.
Yeah, absolutely. So we
Thank you.
have statistics from a variety of places. I can tell you, you can follow up with me after I can tell you which ones, but they're all taken either from research done through Ricky or through a house and home report.
Okay. And then the second part of the question, what is your opinion about the digital fraud around digital advertising these days?
The digital fraud, I guess I would want to know specifically what he means by the digital fraud.
Digital fraud that's surrounding digital advertising these days, bots.
Ah, bots. Yes. Okay, good question. So I would say that in general, as long as you have professionals and people who know how to manage these campaigns and build them, it won't be an issue. And the reason for this is, and it will depend on the platform, but the reason for this is that the way that the forms are set up, especially I'll just go with Facebook as the example, with all these fields, it requires very intentional, personalized sort of input. And so bots, things like that, just typically are not an issue with this type of thing. And if they ever do become an issue, you see it very, very quickly, and you're able to report it to whatever platform you're using, and they'll take care of it. So again, if and when it happens, which is pretty rare, just in the nature of lead generation, it's pretty rare. But if and when it happens, it's something that usually, it's a blast. It happens really quickly, and the platform will be able to support you in mitigating that.
Oh, great, Rachel. There's a bunch of questions, so I'm going to keep going.
Yeah, that's fine.
So from James, he's asking, what in your experience is the preferred online platform to advertise to Generation X and baby boomers?
Good question. So again, it goes back to what I said in terms of no one size fits all. So I can't give you a good answer for that. We see, it really depends what type of product you're selling, or what type of service. So there's not the best answer for that. That said, I will say that Facebook, I think a lot of designers tend to be on Instagram. It's more of a one-to-one kind of platform. Facebook is actually really great for generations like the baby boomer generation. And what was the other one he asked about?
Gen X.
Yeah, and Gen X as well. So Facebook is really great for that, I would say in general. But overall, there's just not really a good one size fits all answer for it. It depends on your budget, it depends what you're looking for, and especially what exactly the product and service is that you're selling.
Okay, thank you. And then from Catherine, can you target ads based on Google search terms? And then she continues, I understand this will vary based on platform. So let's use Facebook, for example. She said specifically, can I target an ad to Sally homeowner after she searches for Portland kitchen designers? That's an example.
Very good question. And the answer is no, you cannot. You cannot upload a specific list of people to target with ads, and that is part of Facebook's privacy policy. So you won't be able to do that. That said, and this kind of gets into the nuts and bolts, which I didn't want to get too far into, but it is possible to upload a list of, say, customers you've had in the past or people who have shown interest to Facebook. And what Facebook will do is create what they call a lookalike audience. So Facebook will find those users itself based on email address and then create an audience to target on its own based on similar demographics or other criteria from the people you upload. Again, that one is called a lookalike audience. Otherwise, you can set up targeting criteria to target people who have searched, and I forgot what exactly she had mentioned, but let's say it's a specific search like contemporary design. You can set up criteria to target people who have recently searched contemporary design in Google. That said, you won't be able to say, please target Sally who has searched contemporary design. Hopefully that answers the question.
Okay, and then there's a couple questions here from Doris. One is, when you advertise on House, are you speaking of additional leads if you were paying a member?
Are you speaking of additional leads, she said?
Yeah, if you were a paying member. I think she's saying that if you're like a House member
Mhm.
and then you want to advertise on House,
Mhm.
she's wondering if you can get additional leads.
I see. Yeah. So no. So again, that will all come down to budget, and we'll get into this a bit later. But generating leads does come with a cost. So you'll have a set amount of budget with it. So being a member, not being a member, that's less important as what your marketing budget actually is and what you're willing to put in. That's really going to affect the quantity and quality of your leads.
And then I'm not quite sure about the second part of this question, but and then she's saying if you're looking for high-end home renovations with an end user.
If you're looking for high-end home renovations with an end user. So if you're asking if people are searching for high-end home renovations, I think that might have been similar to the question about can I target Sally. So if you're looking for users who are searching for high-end home renovation, that goes back to some of the criteria that you can set up. So things like searching for home renovations, and we will get into this a bit later actually, but there's criteria like searching for based on net worth, home income, that kind of thing. So all different kinds of combinations are available.
Okay, Rachel, that's all I see for now. Oh, wait a minute, one more thing here. But you pay to be a member and House, you have to pay additional ads. That's the question.
Yes,
So if you,
correct.
okay, that makes sense. Okay, that's it for right now, Rachel. Thank you.
Okay, great. Okay, so actually this is going to touch on a lot of those questions a bit more. So getting into buyer personas and your sales funnel. Let's dive in. So in general, there's two categories of leads you may target. There's B2C leads, who are also known as consumers, and B2B leads, which are industry partners such as designers, architects, etc. So who you focus on will depend on your business, which I know we have a variety of here of today. There's designers, showroom managers, people affiliated with brands. So it's all really going to depend on the nature of your business. And again, I'm happy afterwards to follow up with you more and give you some more specific information as it relates to the business that you're in. The B2C leads your digital ads generate are homeowners typically who are actively renovating, remodeling, redecorating, and in research mode, most importantly. So what I want to highlight here are, as we talked about, the targeting categories and some criteria available. So socio-demographics, for example, with criteria such as net worth, ownership status, and residence type. Some examples for consumer behavior is targeting is based on a display of patterns that indicate a certain action. So this one's a bit more algorithm technology based, but it's looking for that pattern. So a combination of behaviors taking action that indicate that this person is in the midst of learning about a home remodel, home renovation, or doing a major redecorating. And last is search behavior, such as searching for brands like yours, certain home-related websites, or design services. So just as an example, let's say you are Nike, you might advertise and try to target people who are also searching for Adidas because they're likely a similar demographic. That would be an example of competitive brands for that one. B2B leads. 88% of homeowners hire professionals for their renovations. And I added this here to emphasize how important it is to not overlook this group, especially for those of you who are affiliated with brands and showrooms. And this one, I know off the top of my head, came from the House and Home Report, the most recent one. These leads will often be targeted based on a demographic criteria as well as a career criteria such as job title. So that's another one that you could throw in here, is job title interior designer, architect, principal architect. You could list any and all combinations. In addition to the B2B and B2C leads, your leads also will fall into two other major categories related to your sales cycle. So we're shifting a bit more towards how these leads fall into your sales cycle. And these two categories are preparing to buy and ready to buy. So preparing to buy. Leads who are preparing to buy are in research mode. This is the consumer education phase we discussed earlier, in which they're shopping around online and comparing options. So we call these top of funnel leads. The majority of your preparing to buy leads are just browsing right now, but will be ready to buy within a year. So we mentioned this fact here earlier, but the average buyer begins thinking about remodeling about 5 years before. It's a conscious decision, it's a thoughtful decision. But once they decide to move forward, they're pretty quick with it, and it can take 5 months or less to complete their purchase. Sorry about that. Your campaign can also be set up to target leads closer to ready to buy, meaning they've done most of their research, made some key decisions, and are waiting for the right fit of product or service to come their way. So we call these middle of funnel leads. Because they're so close to decision ready, staying in front of these leads is super important for your business to prevent them from taking their business elsewhere. And we'll talk about that a bit more. This brings us to the funnel. When a lead generated online walks through your door, they've already seen your business and have decided they're interested. And so it's for this reason that the funnel actually begins before this. The job of your digital advertising campaigns is to keep your preparing to buy and ready to buy lead pools full. So your ads will be generating these leads, filling up these lead pools. Your job is to then push these leads through the funnel from preparing to buy to ready to buy, and eventually in store or in your office or in an in-home consultation today. All right, so you're probably thinking now, great, I can just target all the ready to buy leads and call it a day. Unfortunately, it's not quite that simple. And the reason for this is that the quality of your lead, or how close your lead is to ready to buy, is always going to be affiliated with a certain cost. And we touched on that a bit. So to illustrate this, we'll use an example of a sign-up form requesting information. So if you think back to that Facebook ad lead journey, a lead was prompted to fill out a form, and it has first name, last name, and email address in order to download a free digital catalog. That lead will be easier to capture since this is the kind of information most shoppers, especially online shoppers, are used to submitting. When you add additional questions such as first name, last name, email, and what type of product are you looking for, or when are you available for a consultation, the leads will become harder to capture and therefore more expensive. At the same time, it's likely a more serious shopper who will leave this information and be closer to ready to buy. So choosing a target lead quality is about finding that sweet spot middle ground for your business. Again, it comes down to how much are you willing to pay for a lead, which is one of the earlier questions we mentioned when thinking about your strategy. This is where that would be applied. And that helps you to sort of find that sweet spot in what you're looking for. So just another quick visual to illustrate this. You'll see that the lead on the left filled out a more in-depth form and is therefore more expensive, whereas the cheaper lead on the right only filled out 3 identifiers. You have the email, last name, first name, and the other one has those, and as well as the one on the left has those, as well as when would you like to schedule a consultation. So you remember before I mentioned that the job of the digital ad campaigns is to produce leads for your business and keep these lead pools full. Your job, again, is to keep these leads engaged and nurture them through the funnel accordingly. So a lead in research mode is looking for different information than a lead that is closer to ready to buy, and your sales efforts should work accordingly with this. The main goal of nurturing a lead that is preparing to buy is to get them to think of you first when they're ready to buy. This means staying top of mind through things like follow-up calls, newsletter emails, special event invites, and more. You always want to keep a line of communication open with these leads so they come to you when they are ready to buy. These leads aren't urgently looking to begin their project, so don't give up if they don't return your call or email. And this is super important. Certainly, in our experience, we've seen that the brands or showrooms or independent designers, the ones who are really more successful in making the most of their online strategy, are the ones who engage in this repeated follow-up, keep their leads engaged, whether it is through calls, through emails, that type of thing. We absolutely do see a difference there. They will pick up when they're ready, and you should continue to follow up to build a sense of relationship with your brand or service. So I know there's a lot here on this slide. As Debbie mentioned, we'll share them afterwards. We also do have more in-depth documentation on lead nurturing specifically that I'll be happy to send your way if you'd like to reach out and ask for it. So the main goal of lead nurturing for a ready-to-buy lead is to get them into your office or showroom for a meeting or schedule an in-home consultation. They're ready to go. You just want to get closer to closing the deal. This likely means incentivizing them to choose you over your competition with things like discounts or above and beyond service or other things that you're willing to offer. You should know that these leads are likely deciding between you and one other product or service. So be sure to make your follow-up as personal as possible and make them feel like they're in good hands by reconfirming appointments and project details. So they're close to ready, and you really just want to put your best foot forward with them. Okay, and just a quick summary. That's all we really have for today. It is a lot of information, and I figured there'd be a lot of questions, and there's probably more. So I kept some more time for that. But please, again, feel free to email me for a copy, as well as any more in-depth information that we have, and I'll be more than happy to share it with you. I do want to say again, if you leave with one takeaway today, it's that your customers are increasingly doing more and more of their research and shopping online. And whether you're ready to implement a digital strategy ASAP or just planning for the future, taking time to prepare for your digital advertising strategy will always be time well spent. And with that, just want to see if there are any more questions.
Hi, yes, there are. Okay, so I think Rhonda has a question, and I think she was talking about when you first introduced the sales funnel. She was asking, what are those stats based on, and what type of purchases? So that's her question.
Yeah, so I'll actually, if it's okay, I'll go back to the slide, which is this one. So for these stats, these are based on similar surveys that we mentioned before. So it's either Ricky research or house and home reports. And then what was the second part of her question?
She was wondering what type of purchases were they also based on?
Yeah, so usually they're based on home remodels. So whether it's major purchases like a kitchen or bathroom, but furniture as well.
Okay. All right. So now I've got some other things here from Jim. She said thank you.
Mhm.
Um, and then Jim says, how does the platform that you select for digital advertising know that person X is more likely to be a target than person Y? And then he's got another part to that question.
Okay, so yeah, that's a very good question, and that's where it all comes down to the criteria and the specific targeting setup. And this is why marketing is, why there's agencies, why there's marketing departments. So much of it is not just the creative aspect, actually making the ads, but also setting up the criteria in a way that'll target people as best as possible who are closer to ready to buy. So if you think back to those slides with, especially the B2C slides, talking about consumer behavior as well as search behavior, they'll know you'll put in certain identifiers of, are they searching for this? Are they actively doing this? And then other behaviors showing maybe they've made certain types of purchases online already that imply that type of behavior. So the answer to that is that it really comes down to the targeting criteria, which is extremely vast. And so it's all about finding that perfect combination. And so one thing I will say related to that is, especially if you're new to digital advertising, testing and trying different things to start out is very important. So whether you're working with an outside company or doing it in-house, if you hear from your team that they need, they're in the middle of a learning phase and they need to do some testing, that is absolutely the case. You need to kind of put some things out there and try a few different combinations and see what you get back and find the best of each to find what works for you. And a lot of that is because it does depend on your brand reputation, your service reputation, how well known you are, how big or small, what your online presence is, what exactly it is that you're selling. It'll depend on, there's so many factors it will depend on.
Okay, Rachel. So as the second part to that question, I'm not sure if you'd answered this, but so Jim is asking, so on that platform that you were just talking about, is the platform tracking him or her on that, just on the platform, or is it over the entire internet that is being tracked?
Good question. So both and neither. So it's on that platform, absolutely. But Facebook specifically does have access to third-party data that will give them that information. So what types of things people are searching for, and yeah, mostly what types of things people are searching for, and also what they're clicking on. So it's beyond that platform, that specific platform, and that goes for other ones outside of Facebook too.
Okay, and then another question about does the SEO play a role in digital advertising strategy, in your opinion?
Yes, definitely. It does. And again, comes down to platform. So that will be more so related to Google and Google AdWords, but it absolutely does. Yes, that's very important. But it is, I guess, as a note, it is a complementary thing, which is the nature of the question. It's a side thing, but it does play a role. Again, mostly with Google and Google AdWords, but it is important in that respect. Yes.
Okay, and then let's see, there was another question here. Oh, Christina said that she missed the part about Door Boost. She said, can you explain what your organization does and who they are, please?
Yeah, definitely. I'm happy to. Um, so, so DoorBoost we're a digital advertising solution. So we provide a platform and also a partner program. And what we do is we primarily work with brands in the industry and we help connect them to their local retailers and reseller partners. So what we do essentially is address an issue within the industry where online advertising, as shown, is necessary for everyone to be doing. That said, it's really hard, especially for small, medium-sized businesses, to compete against huge brands and huge firms and huge agencies who have huge budgets. Their budgets are not quite as large. So what DoorBoost was built to do, what the solution was meant to address, is to sort of help level that playing field by leveraging the resources of the brands and basically giving access to high quality campaigns for their local retailers to run that also, but that are targeted locally. So it's driving leads in your local area, but with that kind of high quality, very professional brand input in the marketing. And this is helpful for the brands as well because it allows for there to be alignment across the board in terms of how they're represented online. So we basically, through our platform and our program, facilitate that.
Okay, great. Then Christina's asking a question here. She says she has people who don't actively put their name in for the ad, but they'll write in the comment section on Facebook. And she's saying, do you have any suggestions on how to follow up with that? And she says, I always invite them to my free login welcome page, but they don't do that.
Yeah, so it sounds like probably if they're leaving comments, that's usually going to be on a post on your page. The ads themselves, I'm not sure if she's dived into the Facebook ads managers, but the ads themselves, there's a few things you could do when running the ads, especially with the sign up forms. You can indicate types of fields. So they can be pre filled, and they typically are. So if you're on Facebook, you click an ad and it wants first name, last name, oftentimes it will be pre-filled. So that will help mitigate that. But otherwise, you can have certain fields, you can mark them as an open text field or mark them as a drop down where they can select from different options, or make a field mandatory, such as first name, last name. So they won't be able to submit unless they have those things. So again, it sounds like if it's comments, it's probably a post. It can be on the ad as well. But if you're seeing it on the ads, then I would definitely just take a look at what your call to action is and if it's motivating enough or not for those people. So again, a lot of times, especially with more top of funnel leads, the motivation would be some type of incentive, whether it's to download a digital catalog, maybe get access to a first time discount. That usually works pretty well if you're willing to offer that. Or a free consultation is another example. So something that'll really intrigue them in order to leave their information.
Okay, great. Thank you. And then just a quick question. Someone's asking if you are going to be sharing your contact information. And I would say yes,
But yeah,
but
here you go.
mm,
Yeah, we'll share the slide, but here, sorry, I meant to get to the last slide, and I would love for you to keep in touch. Again, as mentioned before, we love to just hear from you about, any great things going on with your brand partnerships, especially any challenges you're having, just what kind of support you're getting from them. We'd love to just, have a dialogue and hear from you. But also, if you'd like more information to refer us to a brand that you work with more regularly, a favorite brand, we'll be happy to discuss that and give you some information as well. So we're open to any of all and all of it.
okay. And then there's a question here about does your organization work with companies in Canada?
Yep, we work with companies all over the world.
Good to know. And then let's see, someone's asking about price ranges, but I think that would be more for a private discussion, I believe,
Yes,
with you.
yes,
Yeah.
correct.
Yeah, most definitely. Okay, well, I don't see any other. There's another question here about brand. So I think that this person isn't too sure if you're speaking like particular brands, like from a large company, or are I think they're looking for more little definition on brands.
Yeah, good question. So we do mean large brands. So I don't want to name specific ones within the industry, but an example of yeah. So an example of brands would be product brands is mostly what we're referring to. So less not brands in terms of business. I guess that might be a bit of the confusion. Everyone is, I guess, in this day and age, everyone's a bit of a brand now. But specifically brands that produce actual products being resold. So furniture, appliances, kitchens, bathrooms, lighting, all of that kind of stuff.
Okay, great. That was good information, Rachel. Is there anyone else that has a question right now? And if not, then I just I want to thank you so much, Rachel, for sharing your time and expertise, and every one of you out there for being with us today about this interesting presentation. We will share Rachel's information in that email that I'll be sending to you. And again, thank you so much, Rachel.
Yeah, thank you so much. Again, keep in touch. And Debbie, thank you for having me and for hosting. And I hope everyone has a really great day.
Thanks, everybody. Bye.